3, 2, 1. Welcome to another episode of Verse and Mission, a podcast that features those who take a leap of faith to follow their dreams and passion. Today I got my brother, HU brother, East Coast brother, all kind of brother, man. President of Comb Enterprises, Tarik Brooks. What's up, man?
What's going on, fam? Happy to be here, bro.
Man, happy to see you, man. Happy to be talking to you. Congratulations on, doing big things, not only for yourself, doing it for the culture, because I know, I know what you bring to this table, brother. And I want the world to understand who Tarik Brooks is. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely. Happy to be here. Happy to get into it, man. It's been far too long since we had a chance to get together and chop it up. So I'm looking forward to it, man.
Man, listen, it's going to be a dope conversation. Let's get it started. Man, I want people to know who you are, where your background is. So let people know your background. I know you went to Howard. What's your major in Howard? And, your first job out of college. And why not?
Yeah, no, I'm happy to get into it, man. So, look, I grew up in Jersey, central New Jersey, but also have real deep ties to Philly. All my extended family's in Philadelphia. I was actually born right outside of Philly. I spent most of my childhood, really going back and forth, doing school years in Jersey, summers in Philly. And so it's interesting as I reflect on that now as an adult, I think about how that shaped my personality, to be able to get into situations, get comfortable, relate to different people in different circumstances. And so I think that factored into a lot of, how I became who I was. You know what I mean?
So you what? Philly or Jersey had more of an impact on I always thought you was Jersey.
I'm Jersey strong through and through for sure.
Okay.
But the values of my fam in Philly, absolutely helped shape me. You know what I mean?
I didn't know you had a Philly connect.
Some core things that family in Philly helped build and shape. Shout out to Southwest Philly. Shout out to Chester, Pennsylvania. That's literally where my people are from. And so,
nice.
A lot about who I am come from that. And look, my dad has probably been the person who had the most impact on shaping me, and he's a Philly dude through and through. Right?
Oh, word.
And so, he moved us to Jersey for more opportunity. As he climbed his road through the corporate ladder.
Let me know a little bit about your dad. I don't, I know he had a big influence.
So my dad, was a guy who built a career in corporate America, in that era where there weren't many of us kind of making that climb. And eventually became the CEO of an organization called the Executive Leadership Council, which is basically an organization for those people. Like imagine in the 80s and 70s, you had just a handful of brothers and sisters that were in these buildings, in these rooms, and they needed each other to come together as support. Now, it's a very big, impactful organization. And when you look at like the Black CEOs that are out there, they're all a part of it and have a special relationship with ELC. And my dad, as a part of his career journey, kind of led that organization for a while.
Oh, nice.
I think he also was that dad who was the Little League coach. Like a lot of my friends in Jersey know him from that loudmouth coach on the sideline. So, he balanced being able to, focus on the career, to do that thing, but be there for my sister and I. So
nice.
I watched a lot of that as I grew up and frankly, I modeled, a lot of what I've tried to do off that.
Nice.
He went to an HBCU. He went to Hampton, which, I don't hold that against him. But,
exactly. What happened when he told you he told you he was going to Howard?
He knew his son was on the right path. That's what happened. Man, look, like he is a strong believer in the power of HBCUs and what they give to us, right? That special, unique opportunity. That confidence, that second family, second home for a lot of us, and so he was ecstatic I was going to Howard.
Wow. What made you choose Howard though? What made you choose Howard of all the HBCUs?
Man, look, funny enough, when I was in high school, I ran track, so I came out of high school with.
I ain't know this, dog. I ain't know none of this.
To go to school and run, and opportunities to do, pursue academic scholarships. And, I felt like going the academic route was probably more in line with where I wanted to go long term. And, it's funny enough, when I was learning about Howard, I learned the story about this young guy who was a student who was, taking classes on Tuesdays and Thursdays so that Monday, Wednesday, and Friday he could shoot up to New York and work an unpaid internship.
Oh, wow.
And so I heard this story and I'm like, yo, I want to be in school.
You heard that story back then?
Yeah, back then. This is early 90s, right? So I'm hearing about that. And I'm like, yo, if that's how they move on that campus, that's where I want to be. I want to be
nice.
with that kind of energy. And as you know, that young man was Sean, Puffy Combs, right?
Right.
So it's funny how the story goes full circle. But yeah, and then once I arrived on the campus, I had that moment everybody did, right?
Nah, Negro, you took over, dog. G-Mo, the whole crew, the rooftop crew.
Yeah, man.
I think I'm a year ahead of you. I was like, look at these youngins, dog. Like, nobody can tell y'all nothing.
Yeah, man. Look, I like the relationships, man. Like when I think about like how impactful Howard was to me, it starts with those relationships, lifelong brothers, lifelong sisters, people I rely on now, people who I reach out to, people who I look out for, I just heard, as you were saying this, I just recently heard about my sister, Terry Patterson, that was promoted to COO over at the NFL Players Association. That's like Howard family from day one. Like, and I could go on naming people like that, right? Like just a super impressive cohort of people I had the honor of being able to walk that campus with, including yourself, bro. So Howard is very, very special in my heart. And the folks at Howard know they can call on me for whatever because I'm gonna be there because it was just that impactful in helping to shape who I am.
Right.
But yeah, study business. As I went through, I knew I was gonna pursue a career in business, didn't know exactly what that was gonna be. And so I was attracted to management consulting because it gave me the opportunity to see a number of different industries and a number of different functions so that I could try to figure out what my lane was. And so I ended up going to a company that's now Accenture. At that time, it was Anderson.
Oh, word. That's what you did straight out of college?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, so
but G-Mo, you wasn't a lame at Howard, but you were smart as hell, dude. Like, how are you able to like be that dude that was like, the hot, the popular dude in the school and still keep your grades, bro? A lot of people can't do that, man. You did it on a sneak too. Nobody knew you were focused like that.
Nah, look, I think so. One, like, again, going back to like my family and my parents, like that story of when you first get there, look to your left, look to your right, somebody's not gonna be there. Like, I couldn't be that, right?
Right.
Like I couldn't be that. Like I cared too much about, what my family had done to be able to get me there and the model that my pop set for me. And so it was like, I knew I had to live up to a very high bar.
Right.
And so that was one piece of it. But then like, once you see that you can actually do it, like your competitive spirit kicks in. So now I'm like, oh, wait a minute. Like, if this is how we moving, like I want to stay. I don't want to lose that seat. Right. And then I learned like it opened up opportunities, right? Like, so I think about the things that I went into Howard with an understanding of really based on the exposure my dad had. When I got to Howard, it also showed me how much I didn't know. Right? Like the worlds I didn't understand. Like there were whole career fields that I had never heard of. I didn't understand why people had particular majors and what they were like. It was just all new to me. And so for me, I've always been like at my core, just super curious, right? Like just trying to understand and learn more. And so that kind of just fueled it, right? Fueled it and opened doors. And so the beauty of going into consulting was it gave me a chance to say like, all right, how does this industry work? How does that industry work? What's in it? What is appealing to me? What's getting me excited? And for me, it ended up being all around how people think about doing new things. So how do you decide to launch a new venture? Like, how do you decide to roll out a new strategy, and how does that work? What are your trade-offs? What do you consider? So that's what kind of drew me in consulting. So did a lot of work with companies trying to figure out those kinds of things. Had the pleasure of being able to go. I was based in New York, but worked all around the country. Spent almost a year in Ireland working on a project.
Oh, say word. How old were you around this time?
This was a year or two out of undergrad, so 22, 23, right? So
nice.
For me, first time in Europe, understanding that, again, getting exposure. And it was like, the more I learned, the more I wanted to learn. So if I traveled to, Paris one weekend, I wanted to go to Amsterdam the next weekend and go to London, like, because I just wanted to get that experience and learn. Right. And again, it was just opening and shaping my worldview. And it's crazy because I meet people who, traveled from when they were young and had exposure. And I was like, man, people don't understand like the value of those kinds of experiences, right? And so even like brothers and sisters that came to Howard from Africa or the Caribbean, like the fact that they had different worldviews to me was just like amazing. Like I was attracted to every conversation I could have to learn more about what the world was like to people. And so yeah, man. So that kind of shaped my early opportunity and kind of experiences. And then through a mentor at the consulting firm, I learned about, at the time, BET, kind of figuring out what their venture was going to be on the internet. And
I remember running into you, dog. You were like, yo, I'm putting together the website for the internet for BET, and it was going to be big. That was in DC.
That was a thing.
That part was DC, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I remember that. So I came back. I moved to New York, and then I moved back to DC to join BET and work with just a great team of people, and built BET.com to be a pretty formidable competitor on the internet. Right? Like now, I'm sure young people just take it for granted. Like, of course, BET has a
that didn't exist back then.
Back then, like we had to think about like what that meant. Like, what were the features? How was it going to utilize the technology? And so it was again like the ability to now apply what I had learned at Anderson, right? And so one of the things that, shaped me while I was at Howard was a book I read called The Spook That Sat by the Door. Right? And the premise of this book, it was a fictional book, but the premise of the book was around the story of a guy named Dan Freeman, who was the first Black CIA agent. And so Dan goes into the CIA and learns everything he can. And he goes back to Chicago, where he's from, and teaches like brothers in the hood everything he learned from the CIA to start the revolution.
Wow.
And so I read this book and I was like, man, and basically thought like, why couldn't I do the same thing, but in business, in the corporate world, right? And so when I went to Accenture, I tried to soak up everything I had. I went to BET, which was then a Black-owned company.
Right.
And tried to apply everything I learned, right? Like try to give the company the benefit of those years in consulting.
Wow.
And so had a great run there. Really enjoyed it. Got to work with some great people, build mentors that I have to this day. The same mentors that were helping me find my way then. Yeah, are mentors that I rely on now. And so, did that. Bob eventually announced that he was selling BET to Viacom. I took a shot, went out to Colorado to a telecom startup, figuring I was going to make it rich with the, telecom wave that was coming.
Right.
The telecom bubble burst.
Right.
And so that company went bankrupt and then had to figure it out. So, in a way that's kind of consistent with my personality, I took my little couple of coins, went to the Dominican Republic and posted up, learning Spanish during the morning and then applying to B school in the afternoons.
Yo, somebody would naturally get another job, but you was like,
like I figured.
What inspired you to go to DR, bro?
No, I figured it was, I figured that there are like unique opportunities in life where you get what I call lost time, where meaning like you're not gonna have to account for it on your resume. People aren't gonna really care about what you did. So like those are times to like take full advantage of and go just do different things and try stuff. So like think about the period of time like from when you graduated from college to when you started working, right? For most people, that's probably like a summer, but it's the summer where you can do whatever you want. You already have a job, so like go take a chance.
Right.
And so for me, I was like, look, until I figure out what this next thing is, nobody's gonna be looking for it. So I was like, why not try to get better at Spanish? And
you picked up
in the Dominican Republic. So went to the DR and had an opportunity then to like focus on like, all right, if I'm going to think about getting an MBA, let's really be thoughtful about why I want to go and what I want to learn. So I had time to like, really go through that process in a good way. So I applied to school and ended up.
While you were in the DR, you applied for school?
Yep.
And that was Harvard, of course.
Ended up getting into Harvard Business School, man.
Wow. Like I said, this cat was not a lame, bro. He was a total opposite. And he had, you know what I'm saying? I'm just like impressed by his story so far, bro. So, okay. How long were you in DR?
So I was down there. So what's crazy is I went there the weekend before September 11th. And
Wow.
So like I literally was in Spanish class that morning when that happened. And so
wow.
I will never forget that experience because I was not great at Spanish, but trying now to decipher what was going on in real time in Spanish, right? So I'm really trying to learn
right.
to be able to digest everything going on. And so that experience was, traumatic for everybody, but it just stands out. And I was down there through the end of that year, came back to DC, right at the beginning of the following year, I guess 2002, because that was around when I would have had to do, interviews for my business school application. So you do the, you do the application, you go to the test site, you take the test, and then if you get to a certain level, you got to go to interviews. So I came back.
What was that interview process like? Just give it insight in terms of the whole Harvard entrance experience. What was that process like?
So what I would say to anybody considering going to B school, I think it's worth it to think about why you really want to go, what you're really trying to accomplish. And then as you're filling out your application packet, and that's everything from your essays to your recommendation to the form, like really, really tell that complete story, right? And so, I was successful in that process. I applied to a couple schools, got into all of them. So I was fortunate to be able to have a choice on where I wanted to go.
Nice.
And I think it was because I was very... I got accepted to Stanford and Wharton.
Wow.
So,
okay. Top.
For me, it was about like, all right, like, why do I want to go to this particular school, not just an MBA program? And so I think what worked for me was being thoughtful about each school. Like, if you actually really dig in, you'll see that each school is looking for something a little bit different.
Right.
They're not exactly the same, archetype. And so I was very thoughtful about positioning myself for exactly what they were looking for and exactly what I wanted from that particular program. And so that's why I think that worked out okay for me. And I had time. I wasn't working. I was in the DR, right?
Right.
I had time to Like, if you think about, like, if you're trying to apply for graduate school, but you're like working full time, and if you it's hard. Like, I got a ton of respect for anybody that
right.
goes to school at night, applies while they're working, applies while they have little kids, like all those things. Cause like the ability to just focus is something that I think people underestimate the value of. And so for me, the ability to take the time and really just focus and be thoughtful, I think paid out. And so, and look, I wouldn't replace my time at HBS for the world. Like, very similar to Howard, right? I met just incredible people, built like lifelong friendships. Again, people who to this day, like I'm reaching out to make connections, to pass on opportunities, to help somebody where I can. People help me. How was
the culture at Harvard? Especially for brothers and the Black community at Harvard.
So what a lot of people don't know is there is a real legacy and tradition around Black people. And even the subset of that, like, they have Black people from HBCUs that go to HBS and do phenomenally well, right? And I don't want to try to name names now because I feel like I leave somebody out.
Right.
Like, trust me when I tell you, like, the community is tight knit. The organization, the African American Student Union, deep legacy, and the names of people that come out of HBS that were a part of that, who give back. Just a phenomenal organization, and it's a core part of my experience there. And look, they're also meeting people from around the world, man. Like, I have friends now in all kinds of countries that I met while there. Like, I traveled to India with a group of people who were all friends I met in B school, and experienced like how amazing that country is with people who were from there, who could actually tell me what it's really like, that kind of thing. And so yeah, man, like it was a phenomenal experience. I'm a big fan of both of the schools where I attended. Like,
I was gonna say, which one impacted your career more, Howard or HBS? Keep it 100, brother.
I would say, I would have to say Howard, man. I think because of look, leave aside the place that Howard is. Like, just think about where Howard gets you in your development. Right? Like, you're emerging from childhood into adulthood, trying to shape your view of the world. right? And so like the professors at Howard are molding these minds at this very moldable state. I think when you get into B school, like, you know a little bit, like you don't know as much as you think you know, because when you get out, you realize I didn't actually know that much. But like you have had some experiences that have shaped you differently than what you have at Howard. The other thing is, I think, for Black people in the U.S., a lot of us don't get to experience the uniqueness that is Howard or other HBCUs, right? Being in this environment for at least this period of time, you can put the race thing aside for a second.
Right.
In that
we're the majority.
You finally get to see what that feels like.
Right.
Right. and so many of us, like, we just take for granted feeling the other way. We don't recognize how comforting it is to not have to worry about those things in that particular moment. And so, like, I got a ton of amazing friends that went to non-HBCUs and they've done incredibly well. And so, like, I'm not saying you can't be successful anywhere else. I'm just saying there is a thing that you get on an HBCU campus that you're not going to get anywhere else.
I drank the Kool-Aid, dog. I left Howard thinking I'm going to take over the world. Honestly, bro. This is why I'm doing the things that I'm doing now, because I'm like, yo, it's possible. It could be done. And Howard, instilled that in me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. I think both of my schools had that in common, right? Like, both schools, like, drive home to you that, like, we chose you for a reason. Like, we believe in the potential you have. And so now it's on you to figure out how to maximize that potential.
Right.
I mean, like, literally, like, HBS has the same kind of energy it puts around the people. Like, they select those people because they believe those people have a shot at being impactful in the world. And, you look at the track record, and a lot of impactful people have gone down that road.
Right. All right, so HBS, man. Okay, I definitely.
So I do HBS, and I kind of figured I was going to go back into media, right? Because I had enjoyed my time at BET. The media space was continuing to evolve in all these exciting ways.
Okay.
I figured I would go that route, and then I learned that Bob Johnson was building what is now RLJ Companies, right? Like,
hold on. I gotta, I know the story you're about to tell. I just got to tell his story first. I'm on vacation. St. Martin, of all places, in a club. And next thing I know, I heard, Cal. I was like, who the hell know my name up in here? This dude, Tarik, was posted up, VIP bottle, like he owned the spot. Now, I know you're about to tell that story, how you got there. So I just wanted to let people know.
Yeah, I mean, look, those great times. They bring back great memories.
International man of leisure I'm talking to right now.
So look, I again, through a mentor that said, look, before you decide what you're doing, go down and talk to Bob and his team. And so,
listen, you're talking to Bob like he's easily accessible, like.
No, look, I don't. So to be clear, and like one of the things
Bob Johnson, we're talking about Bob Johnson.
We're talking about Bob Johnson. So what you'll find throughout my career is I've been extremely fortunate to work for some amazing individuals, particularly as it relates to like entrepreneurs who've built something. And so from that perspective, I believe I've had the chance to kind of learn from the best, and nobody fits that more than Bob, right? Like Bob, built BET from a $500,000 loan, right? Like, and built the monster that is BET. So, and then like everything he's done beyond that has just been out of this world too. And so when I had the opportunity to say, like, look, you can sit in this organization and learn from the best, see how he thinks about opportunity, see how he thinks about what he wants to do. And so I kind of was talking to his team about what that might look like, what role might make sense for me. And it turned out that, Bob had a lot of relationships in the Caribbean and was interested in looking for opportunities in the gaming space. Gaming meaning like casino style gaming. So he wanted to and see what the opportunities were. So, the question was, do you want to, freshly minted Harvard MBA, 25, 26 years old, do you want to move to the Caribbean and try to build some businesses?
I mean, listen, bro, anybody would jump on that. You know what I'm saying?
How can you turn that down, right? Like, how can you turn that down to be able to try to build businesses with a legend,
Right.
In these beautiful countries, get to learn and, travel and do all that. So I was like, sign me up, let's go.
Right.
So move from Boston to the Caribbean.
Wow.
So,
how was that experience?
So the funny thing is, so first it was amazing. It was everything anybody might think it would be. Like whatever you think would be the dopest experience ever. Like it was that plus some. So
right.
So I'll say that as a baseline. But for me, it was great because I went from this very like ivory tower, theoretical, almost philosophical, intellectual environment that was HBS, where you sat around and just thought about complex problems and what you might do in situations and how, you look at your spreadsheet and tells you what to do and figure it out. Moving to the Caribbean and starting from scratch, building these businesses was almost the opposite of that. It's like, no.
You're on the ground. You gotta get your hands dirty. This ain't no theory
here. Yeah. So it was great to go from one to the other because it just gave me that stage of development. Like it was all good to have that theoretical, but this was the like hands and boots on the ground. What do you do? What do you do in these situations that a textbook didn't prepare you for?
Right. So how prepared were you? How prepared were you? Based on Harvard for that opportunity? Or is it something that you just had to like lean on your instincts, lean on your relationships? How prepared did Harvard get?
Look, I think it's both, right? And so if you ask a question about how prepared is anyone for any situation they find themselves in, I would argue that the most important step in preparation is belief that you can actually do it.
Ooh, facts.
Right? Like you have to wake up in the morning with the audacity to be like, of course I can do it. Have I ever done it before? Nope. Do I know everything it's going to take? Nope.
Right.
But I can do it.
Right.
You have to have that mentality.
That confidence.
And one of the biggest compliments Bob ever gave me was to say like he felt like he could drop me in a situation in the mud.
Wow.
And I would figure out something. Like it might not be exactly what he wanted. It might not look the way, but I would figure out how to create value in that situation. And so that's kind of how it was, right? Like, so yes, I relied on things I learned at Howard, relationships I built at Howard, things I learned during consulting, things I learned at BET, things I learned, like it wasn't one particular place. It was all those things that led to me being able to do, a couple good things there. I mean, built the business from scratch on the island of St. Kitts, built the business from scratch on the island of Barbados. Those businesses, were able to get those to a point where they were profitable, right? So I had a good run down there over a couple of years. And it wasn't perfect. I had challenges like one would expect, and things to learn, and you take your licks sometimes, and so you go through all that. But net, like I think I had a great run because I was internally confident in myself that I had the ability to do it, but also open-minded that there was a ton that I didn't know and was going to have to learn.
Wow.
And so,
you dropping jewels now. You dropping jewels, brother.
No, man, look, I like to believe I avoided a couple of bricks because I was open-minded enough to say, like, I don't know. Let me go figure out. Let me go find somebody that can help me find the answer.
Right.
And so, I had a great run down there for...
How long were you down there?
5 years or so.
Okay.
5 years.
And you were still in your 20s at, around that time, right?
Yeah. I hit 30 down there somewhere because birthday party down there.
I could imagine. Matter of fact, I remember your birthday party. And I remember that, and I couldn't go. I got invited, I couldn't go, and I sent my homegirl down, and she was like, "Yo, it was on point. It was fire. It was fire."
No, we had a good time, but yeah, man, it was late 20s, just into my early 30s, and that was when, Bob's team let me know that Bob had, met the president of Liberia at the Clinton Global Initiative. And, for anybody that doesn't know about Liberia went through a long period of civil war.
Yeah.
And the president at the time, Ellen Sirleaf Johnson, was the first female head of state in Africa. And she had a very ambitious plan to get Liberia back on track, get into growth and rebuild the country. And so Bob was super impressed by her and committed to make an investment. And, in the process of figuring out what that investment might be, he realized that like a part of what was dictating our team going over there to evaluate and try to understand what the opportunity was limited hotels. Like there weren't any new hotels built for like 20 years. And so Bob said, like, I know the hotel business. He has RJ Hospitality that owns hundreds of hotels. So he knows that business inside now. And so he said, let's build a hotel over there. And so by the time I got the call, you know, the message was like, look, this thing is kind of behind schedule. This thing is low over budget. We need you to go over there and figure it out.
Wow.
And so, you know, I left, you know, Barbados, which, if you know the Caribbean, is a very comfortable, easy,
nice,
friendly, like it's
right.
Nice. It's like a very easy place to be. And moved to Liberia, man. Moved to Liberia to build a hotel.
Wow. How was that experience? How was that, you know, how was that culture? They were just recovering from the Civil War. How was that environment, bro?
So at the point I went over there, we're probably 3 years out of Civil War. Like a lot of the infrastructure you might expect to see somewhere else wasn't really in place. But you could see it was a country that was wanting to kind of break out. And, you know, they had a bunch of young people who wanted to put the past behind them and really build the country. I think, you know, to this day, I still say that experience in Liberia was probably the most impactful period of my life. And it definitely required every aspect of my personality to get the work we had to get done. I mean, from, you know, what I learned in Philly, to Jersey, to Howard, to like anything I ever learned, it took to figure it out. Like it was one of the, like, it was, in a sense, it was like fulfilling, right? Like it was like that thing where you're like, yo, this is what it feels like to use everything you have to try to accomplish a goal.
Right.
And everything doesn't go right and you run into all kinds of problems, but like knowing you're giving, like when people say, oh, you just gotta give your all, like to know what that really feels like is a special thing. So when I think about the ability to actually get a hotel built, get a hotel open.
Wow.
Our first guest, because of, you know, the scheduling, the president has scheduled this international event. And so our first guests were like heads of states from different countries. And so to sit down that night on the deck and just look around and see this thing that was like,
wow, I'm trying to visualize that now, bro.
Like before you got there was just amazing, man. It was incredible. Like it was like I said, it's the most incredible experience I've ever had. And you know, in as much as like as I travel through the Caribbean, I kind of take, you know, a part of me becomes that place. So like, I'm raised in Jersey, but like through my experience in the Caribbean, I'm part every island I was there, and I'm absolutely part Liberian after that experience. You know what I'm saying? Like I genuinely revert to my Liberian brothers and sisters as brothers and sisters because I feel like that island that country is like a home for me, man. I love that place. I love the people. I love what we were able to build. I mean, our intent was to build it so that businesses could come and figure out, you know,
y'all were like the first to kind of like show.
We need a place to kind of like, we're going to settle up here. We're going to get a block of rooms for 3 months and figure out what we're going to, it was that kind of thing. But then, you know, Ebola hit. And so you didn't have, you know, businesses coming, but what you then did have is organizations like the Red Cross, Doctors Without Borders trying to come in and help. And so the hotel then became the kind of meeting point, the landing site for that. So like, you know, while in one breath, like, you know, my intention was to build something to spur the economy and spur business growth. You know, it turned out at that time to be more useful as a place to get the country the help it needs to stop a crisis. You know and it was a crisis that, you know, devastated the country in a lot of ways, but it speaks to the resilience of the Liberian people that they fought through that and they're building and they're growing and they're working. You know,
dude, how did you react when you were like somewhat like the epicenter of, you know, the whole Ebola crisis? How did you move?
So I wasn't, so I had already, so from a time perspective,
gotcha.
I was there for about, you know, 9 or so months straight. And then I would go back every other month for a while. By the time Ebola hit, I had already kind of stopped. I was still working for Bob, but doing other things for him.
Right.
So at that point I wasn't there, but I mean, to know that, you know, friends, you know, people that work for me, their children, their family were dying was hard, man.
Wow.
Like, you know, at this point, hearing about it kind of through Facebook, you know, that you lose like dear friends, right? Like these were like, when you're living in a project that you're doing, the people who you're working with are your family.
Your
right?
family,
Like
yeah.
That's the people you're relying on. And so like when I talk about my Liberian family, like I lost family members during that thing. So it was tough, man. But you know, I was, you know, happy to see the country get through it, happy to see the country continuing to rebuild and love that this project that was,
You're a part of, dog.
Deeply a part of, right? Like my blood, sweat, and tears are in that sand on that beach where that hotel is. And so it feels good, man. It feels good to be able to do something like that. Right. And then, you know, came back to the States, worked on a number of different projects for Bob and other industries, just trying to, you know, doing what I do, like, you know, figuring out an opportunity, trying to build something that creates value, and kind of build that up. And so did that for a little while, then tried to take another shot at jumping out into the startup world and jump out on my own. And so I moved to Jamaica and took a shot.
What startup was in Jamaica, bro?
Nah, so I'd done the gaming stuff in the Caribbean, so I figured, like, you know, maybe I could run that play, you know, on my own. I'd done it for Bob a couple of times, so I was like, maybe I could figure out how to run that play on my own. So I went down there and, you know, was promptly humbled. You know what I'm saying? Promptly humbled. Like, how
was that experience, bro?
No, starting a business anytime, anywhere is hard. Right? Like the odds are stacked against you. Like, you know, and any entrepreneurs worth their salt will tell you, like, you know, the spread between success and failure is a very thin line. And so, you know, my hat is always off the people who've done that thing successfully. You know, down there, I think what I underestimated was how much, you know, bureaucracy, government regulation, those kind of things can slow you down. And in a world where you're trying to stay liquid and stay scrappy,
right?
You may not be able to, you know, hang on long enough to get to the other side, right? And so, and in my situation, like I had to get to a point where I said, like, this was a shot. I got to call it. It didn't work the way I expected to do it. But it was a great learning. Like I don't, you know, wish that I didn't go through that. Like I don't wish another path for myself, because I learned a lot. I learned a lot about being an entrepreneur. I learned about how to fall down and get back up. Like that's just a part of what it is. Came back to the States and learned about a company called Bridgewater Associates through a classmate at HBS. And, you know, Bridgewater Associates is the largest hedge fund in the world. And, you know, it's known for having a very intense, very rigorous culture that they believe in that environment, like, helps mold, get the best out of people. The whole notion of, like, iron sharpens iron. So we have to be really hard on each other. We have to be really critical. We have to be really transparent, and that's going to bring out the best in each other. And so, you know, at first I was a little wary, because I'm like, I've never really worked at a hedge fund before. Not really my thing. I'm the guy that built the hotel. Like,
right.
But the more I learned about this culture, there was a part of me that was like, man, this is interesting. I want to be a part of that. And then there was a part of it, like, you know, can I hack it? Right. I know I can hack some things, but can I hack that? Right. And so, you know, was a bit, and then the guy who ended up hiring me, at a certain point, we were trying to figure out, like, what I would do there. And we had like a real frank conversation. I was like, look, I like the culture. I like the people I met. I'm not sure what you would have me do here. And he just said to me, he was like, look, in your career, you've shown the ability to get difficult shit done.
Right.
And we try to do a bunch of difficult shit every day.
Wow.
So we'll get you in and we'll figure it out. And so I ended up coming into their, like, you know, senior management program, and functioned as the chief operating officer for a couple of different departments. And so, you know, ran the budget, ran recruiting, ran special projects.
How big is this company?
Office.
How, you know, in terms of?
So Bridgewater Associates is about 1,500 people. They manage something like $160 billion worth of assets, based in Connecticut. So in the hedge fund world, you know, they're a big deal. It's a big company.
And you were
the gentleman that's the founder is a guy named Ray Dalio. He's very famous, very successful investor. And so, so look, like everywhere else in my life, I went there and just tried to soak it all up. Man. Went there and learn from the best, right? Like these people in a lot of folks' eyes, at the type of investing they do, they're considered amongst the best at it. So my view was like, I'm just going to learn from the best while I'm here. And so had a great run doing that for a couple of years. You know, as always, accumulated a couple more mentors.
Right. Yeah. Talking about mentors. I know Bob and your father, you talked about those guys, you know, those individuals a lot. Who else? You know.
So Scott
Name
Mills,
drop a little bit.
Scott Mills, who is now the president of BET, was my boss at BET many years ago. And then ended up, funny enough, being the person that introduced me to Puff.
Okay.
So he's a mentor. Lisa Wardell, who is the CEO of Adtalem, you know, public company, Black female CEO. She's a monster. been a mentor, since I was at Accenture, since those early days, right? And it's kind of consistently mentored me throughout my career. Yeah, man, like I've just been fortunate, man, to have people I could turn to who know, what I bring to the table, and then help me figure out how to make those hard decisions. Jim Lowry, who is, I think he might have been like the first Black partner at McKinsey or something like that. Had a long career at BCG, great mentor to me. So, I could go on and on, but I'm worried I'll leave people out because I've literally had so many people who've like invested
so you have
in
so
me
many mentors. How do you keep in contact with these individuals? Because a lot of times we just so busy trying to figure things out, we kind of lose contact, and life gets in the way. You know what I'm saying? Did you make it a special point to make sure you reach out?
One of the things I try to do, and it seems like a small thing, but I think it actually works, is like, if somebody crosses your mind, hit them. Shoot them a quick text, shoot them a quick email, right? Like when things happen in your life that you can give people updates about, shoot the updates. They actually care. And typically in those things, like in life, there's never too much good news, right? Like, so people that care about you want to hear good news about you, right? So the birth of your child, the new job, the move to a different city, like those things. I've never been one that's good at like the holiday cards and that thing. I wish I was. But I'm not really good at that thing. But I do try to be pretty good about just checking in with people and just
doing the little thing. It adds up.
Yeah, man. Like especially like when you think about the year we just had with the pandemic and all that, man. You never know what people are going through during this time. So the value of just checking in on people is just a real thing, man. Like
listen. Based off your story so far, man, relationships has been the most important, commodity in your journey, bro. Like, that's dope.
I've always tried to make sure my world was filled with people I can learn from. And those don't always have to be people who are older than you. Be people who are younger than you, have different experiences, people that have done different things than you've done. Like that there's always something you can learn from people. And I think I've been pretty good about staying open-minded about learning. And I think that's what's been helpful to me, right? Like I've never felt like I know it all, right? And so I'm always asking questions, and so that enables me to continue to learn and grow, and helps build the way I think, helps build creativity, and I think those things kind of help long term, man.
Right. Also Bridgewater. I think from Bridgewater. Go ahead.
So from Bridgewater, I ended up getting, like I said, Scott Mills. I talked to him about my experience at Bridgewater, and what I explained was like, look, amazing company filled with super intelligent people doing great work every day. But I feel like it's not going to be a place where it's going to require all of me in the same way that Liberia required all of me. And I know what that feels like.
He was bored, huh? Like, you were bored. You sound like you was bored.
I would never say that. Like there, like, trust me when I tell you, there is nobody who's had the fortune of working at Bridgewater that would ever say they were bored while they were there. So trust me when I tell you, it was not boredom. But it was more of that sense of, I know all of what I can bring to the table. And just practically speaking, a lot of those things aren't needed in that environment. It's just different.
Gotcha.
Different. Like what they do to create value doesn't require some of the things I bring to the table. And so there was a little bit of searching for that, trying to figure out what that thing was. And when, Scott said, look, I heard Puff is thinking about, adding somebody to his team, you should meet him. And, he and I we met and probably spent like 6 or 7 months just staying in touch, just trying to get to know each other and kind of understand where he was and what he wanted to do next, and where I was and what I wanted to do next, and figure it out. So it wasn't like a rush thing. It wasn't a, on the spot, that kind of thing. It was more of a like, let's just take time. And he would send me a note sometimes and say, what do you think about this thing? And I'd give him some thought, like, so he could literally learn like how I think about things. And so we built a bit of a relationship. And then at a certain point, we're like, look, let's try it. Let's see if it works.
Wow.
And so I initially joined as his chief of staff, just to kind of get my head around what goes on here. And, today I'm the president.
What was that environment like, bro? Like, you come from a hedge fund environment, and now you're chief of staff of Comb Enterprises. What was that vibe like? What was that structure like,
Yeah, I think what was similar was that there were a lot of moving pieces that moved very fast. And so this ability to quickly understand how things were moving around you and be able to separate what was important and what was noise was similar in both environments. I think what was unique for me in my experience is Combs Enterprises, where I sit here, is much closer to creative than I had ever been in my career before. Like before, I was always much closer to the business side and the numbers and all that thing. And just by definition of what Combs Enterprise is and who Puff is, like you're closer to the creative just by how he creates value. And so that was a learning curve for me because frankly, creative people think different from the way numbers people think. So understanding how to communicate, how to motivate, how to inspire, how to incentivize people was just a different thing. So that was a part of the learning curve here. We're really trying to understand like how was value really created and how do you motivate people to do the things that are going to create value? So
so you guys constantly creating value and creating relevance and all that.
And look, the beautiful thing about this place, you know, the legacy that it wasn't like Liberia where or even in the Caribbean when I walked in, there was nothing I had to figure that thing out, right? You know, by the time I joined, you know, Bad Boy, Ciroc, Sean John, you know, like I was standing on the shoulders of giants already. You know what I mean? So it was more around figuring out, you know, what Puff's next mountain was going to be and how I could be impactful in helping to shape that thing. Because that was more like his track. I mean, he could retire tomorrow and nobody would have a question like his track record. Right?
Dude, Puff was in the 90s, bro.
Yeah. So it wasn't about like trying to figure out how to do anything from scratch. It's about like, where are things, what can be improved while still keeping the core, and how do you make that better and how do you build from there? That was what the challenge was for me, is figuring out how I could add value that way.
Right. Okay. So apparently you figured out value because chief of staff. And
man, look, it's been a good run. Like I said, it is a company that just is filled with, you know, amazing legacy, you know, super strong assets, and like the people.
What are some of the assets? You know, I know Puff is the main asset, but
yeah, I mean, like he is the ultimate cheat code, right? Because you're leveraging his platform, his celebrity. Like you can communicate with millions of people cheaper than a lot of people can do it, right? So like just so efficient in that way. But like when you think about the actual products, like what is it that we go out and sell, right? If it's Bad Boy Records music, you talk about Ciroc Vodka, DeLeon Tequila, Revolt TV and digital network, Aqua Hydrate, Sean John, Capital Prep, our charter schools. Like these are tremendous assets. Like these are very valuable entities.
Right.
So again, it wasn't like I was tasked with trying to figure out what those things are. It was mainly saying, all right, look at this portfolio of assets. What can we do?
And they're kind of like all over the place. So you kind of have to.
On the surface, they look that way, but I think the magic, like if I'm doing my job well, I'm figuring out ways to make sure the different companies are working together to make 1 + 1 = 4. Right. So if Revolt is learning something about the way young people who love hip hop think, like that information has to get to Ciroc when they're thinking about design and marketing campaigns.
Wow.
Right. And that information that they learn from the retailers needs to be able to get to Aqua Hydrate when they're figuring out how to sell. Like, and if you have that information flowing, like, I kind of describe it as not playing fair. Like big companies would call it economies of scale or synergies.
Right.
It is looking for those things that you can do because you have these assets that don't appear connected on the surface. But there are through lines that connect them all.
Right.
So I think you know, that's the power in the ecosystem that way.
Right. How big is the company? How big is your, you know, the whole?
Yeah, I mean, look, we don't get into publicly disclosing numbers because it's like private.
I respect that.
What I tell you is, you know, if you add up all the people across the board, you know, across all the different companies, you're probably looking at 250 people.
Okay.
Very diverse team. You know, pretty evenly split women and men. You know, about 40% Black, 20% Latino, 20% white. Like,
nice.
Very diverse. Like we look like the company of the future. You know?
Right.
So proud. And then when I look at the leadership team that I frankly rely on to help get things done, just incredible people, incredible people who lead each of the different business units and the different teams. And look, we're doing well, man. Our spirits business is up strong. media business up strong. We have a bunch of new things that we're developing that, over the next 6-12 months, there'll be some announcements that we're really proud of.
Nice.
And we built a platform last year called Our Fair Share to help, businesses get access to PPP loans.
Right.
And we've been super impactful, right? Like we partnered with JP Morgan, PayPal, Square, Cabot, like these companies that, try to do a lot, see the value in partnering with us to help us reach our community because we're the best at it.
Right. So, man, you came in as chief of staff, now you're president. How were you able to ascend so quickly? Puff really, that trust was.
Yeah, so I think, like I said before, it starts with the belief that I can do it, right? And again, great mentorship, right? When I came on board, people like Derek Ferguson, people like Dia Sims made sure I knew how things work, made sure I knew the history, made sure I knew all the things to watch out for that could blow me up. And so and then I was willing to just do the work, right? Like I think the results matter, right? So being able to put the points on the board and being able to kind of jump in and be impactful. And so I think when you have people that want to help you land well, and you have that deep desire to want to succeed, like good things happen.
Nice.
And so, and I can't leave out like Andre Harrell. Andre Harrell was another person who would take the time to make sure I understood how this world worked. And so again, like another person who's super impactful to make sure like I was doing well as I tried to move through everything we were trying to accomplish.
Right. Yo, I heard Puff is a hard boss to work for, bro. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, so yes. Short answer is yes.
I mean, he's a creative. Is it because he's a creative? He got so much things.
I think where Puff, Ray Dalio, Bob Johnson, all these people are similar is they have a high bar for quality in their respective fields. And so that's the first thing that makes him hard is like he's not going to settle for anything less than excellence, right? Like that's the bar. Two, he's creative and in some ways, like I would even call it like an optimist. Like he has no constraints on what he thinks is possible. So that means for you, the executor, you now got to go figure out how to make that thing a reality. But like he doesn't, he believes anything is possible. Genuinely.
Wow.
So you have to receive that in a way that kind of mirrors that optimism and say like, I know there's a solution out there. I just got to find it. I think if you're not able to approach it that way, I think then you end up with that.
Yeah. Right.
You know what I mean? And so I think it certainly takes a certain personality type to make it work. But like for me, I like that. Like my dad was hard on me, right? Like I want my bosses to be hard on me because to me, like I think about like every coach I ever had in every sport. If they weren't hard on you, would you have been able to get to that level of performance you were able to get to? Right. And to me, like I like competing. I like winning, right? And so I want to be pushed to that best level of performance because that's what I want. Like sometimes when I talk to people about Bridgewater, I use the analogy. I didn't make this up. Somebody at Bridgewater did. Was like if you and I went to go get like a golf lesson, right? We left right now. We go to a golf course. We get a lesson. If all that golf coach did the whole time was tell you, good job, you're trying hard, we would never pay for another lesson from that golf coach. But if he said, put your hands like this, nope, your shoulders were wrong, nope, your wrists were wrong, you didn't use your knees. Like that's hard because he's giving you this critical feedback, but he's pushing you to get better. And to me, like that's where, that's how
you learn how to do that perfect swing. You're learning that perfect swing.
If you go to the gym and you don't sweat, you're not going to get any stronger or any more fit. You go in there and sweat and tremble a little bit. The next time you're gonna be stronger, right? Like you need, like that's a part of what we need to get to our greatness. Like we got to get pushed, and so like
you're getting brolic right now, huh? You're brolic already. You're
going as a person that look, man. I'm just trying to be the best me I can be, bro. Like
right.
And I think I know with my personality type, I benefit from being around and working with folks who are willing to push me to say like, you got more. You got more. Like,
right.
So, and I think if somebody wanted to be successful at Combs Enterprises, they got to come in and know like that's how we roll here. Like people that work here and are successful, they actually like working hard. Like they also like winning, right? Like they like doing the thing where people say, "Oh, that's what they do."
Right.
That, like they want, like they like that. That's the energy they thrive on. And so, and I think that's what makes fun. And so when you hear like Puff in the ad libs talking about can't stop, won't stop. Like we live it. Like that's how we move every day.
Wow.
And I think for the person that wants that energy, I think it's a great place to be.
All right, you said you came when a lot of things were established, Bad Boy, Ciroc, all these different entities that Puff got going on. What is going to be your impact in terms of elevating everything to the next level? What's your goals and from that perspective?
Yep. So look, there's a handful of new things that I think are going to be very, very impactful. I think Our Fair Share was just one of them. We supported and kind of resourced the funding of our Black Party. That was another new thing that happened last year. There's some other initiatives I think are important. I think the continues success of the platform, right? Like if you get a platform that's working, which you try your best not to do, is have it stop working on your watch, right?
Right.
To the extent I can help continue, fuel, accelerate the growth of those things. And just as important is how the people that come through, this ecosystem evolve and develop and grow. Right. So I love the idea of like somebody who's a junior person with us now, maybe a couple years from now is running their own business or as an executive somewhere. Maybe they're still here. Maybe they're in my seat. Like that's success, right? Like to be able to help and shape and mold a career to have some people do bigger things than they were doing when you met them, I think is important. Right. So like when I assess my own performance, I think about the financial outcomes, did we make money? Are we doing better than we were before? But I also think about how are people developing? Like, are they getting stronger? Are they learning? Are you shaping those things? Are we bringing in interns like how Andre brought in Puff as an intern so many years ago?
Right.
Continuing that tradition, right? So like those are the kind of things I think about when I assess like if I'm successful, what is that going to look like?
Right. People.
And then there's a through line of like everything we do like has some piece of for our community, for our people. Right, like
for the culture, to
the extent I'm helping to create opportunities for the culture and for the people that don't exist, then I think I'm doing a good job. And to me, it's the spook that sat by the door. I went from Accenture to Bob, to Bridgewater, or to HBS, to RLJ, to Bridgewater, to Combs Enterprises. Like all I'm doing is taking everything I can learn from those organizations that operate at a certain level of excellence and bringing them back to our people. So if I can keep doing that, like I'm a happy guy.
Right. Listen, I see you got a book in you, brother. Yeah, your stories are amazing. Like, and you're not like, no, I went to this corporation, I went to this corporation. No, I started this opportunity, I did that, I move on to this next opportunity. And it seems like every opportunity was more challenging, and whatnot. So what's your legacy, man? What's your legacy gonna be like? If you was to write that book right now, like I know you referenced the spoof that sat by the door. What people gonna look at your journey, your life? What it's gonna look like? What are you gonna leave behind, bro?
Man, look, I think all I want to be able to do is when I die, look at God and be like, I did everything I could with everything you gave me.
Facts.
And if that's what I can say, then I'm gonna feel good about it. I think in terms of leaving behind, I got beautiful children, and I'm hoping I'm making,
how many kids you have now?
I have a stepdaughter who's in her early 20s, and I have a 9-year-old son, and I have a 6-year-old daughter.
Oh wow, that's a fam.
If they are able to be productive, happy members of society, striving to make this place better than it was when they got here, that again, I'm doing okay.
Man, I know your pops is proud, brother.
Setting for them. Yeah, man. Like he's feeling good, man. He's feeling good. Like I think he recognizes that the work put in was worth it. Right. Not just me.
Right.
I'm doing all right, but I got a sister who's a PhD entrepreneur. She made the mistake of going to Hampton too, but then went to Howard for her PhD. So she righted that wrong along the way. And she's doing phenomenally well, published researcher, blog. I can go on about her. So I think my parents feel pretty good. I think they feel pretty good about how they shaped us, and certainly for me, set the model for how I'm gonna try to shape my kids as I kind of mold them.
I'm sure I'm sure they're watching and learning like how you was watching your father and learning and picking up things, and that's so invaluable, right? You know what I'm saying? Coming from a legacy of success and winning, goes a long way. It makes sense now. It makes sense how you were able to move so effortlessly, and winning at the same time,
Yeah,
brother.
I wouldn't call it effortlessly, bro.
Man, you made it look you made it look easy.
No. Like I like to pride myself on being able to work hard, being able to dig in, and so. And again, that's just another thing I wanna instill in my kids, man. I want them to like appreciate and like that feeling of digging and working hard. Right. Like that, like they like understand the joy that comes with that, being able to do hard work and see the benefit from it, see the reward,
nice,
both in the process and in the outcomes.
Nice,
because the outcomes won't always match, right? Like I worked hard in Jamaica, and that thing was a flop.
Right.
But like. But I wouldn't change it for the world. I loved it. I enjoyed the experience because of what it taught me, what I learned about myself, what I learned about business. That will happen. But like in life, the winners are the people who get up and like nobody remembers. The people I said nobody remembers the shots that Jordan did make or that Kobe did make. Right? They give him the ball again. He's gonna shoot again, and then he's gonna want that ball when there's 3 seconds left. Right?
And you don't want to want that ball with 3 seconds.
That's my mentality. Like I want the rock, right? And I'm gonna win or die by that work I put in. So
nice.
Yeah, man.
Yo, man. Last question. You seem to have like a really amazing journey career-wise and just overall life, man. What is the single best advice you ever got that you kind of lean on as you move through these different spaces, through career and through life?
I would say, like as anybody is trying to figure out what they're gonna do with their life, how they're gonna spend their time, and make choices. Like the quality of your life is basically the sum of the choices you make, right? Like it's not for most people, it's not any one choice. It's the sum of those choices, right? And so what I would say is, as you're thinking about the choices you make, like work hard to be truthful with yourself. And so that's anything from like choosing a partner to choosing a career path, to choosing who you're going to work with, to choosing where you're going to live. Like really, really work hard to be truthful with yourself, right? Because I've found the people who seem to be most fulfilled are people who spend the most time with doing things they like and spending time with people they like.
Facts, especially now during a pandemic.
Yeah, like, and that's the thing people say. Like, if you pick the right career for yourself, you never work a day, or you like, however they say it. Like, yeah, you work. Like, that's not but you enjoy the work because you're walking in your purpose. You're being true to yourself. And so I think there's something about like not chasing money, not chasing accolades. Like, chase that thing that you just love. Like, what makes you happy? Like, what's going to wake you up before the alarm clock in the morning because you can't wait to go do it. Like,
right.
Do that thing.
Right.
Like every successful person I know is like that, right? Like if you see like Ray Dalio, when you hear him talk about investing, like you can tell like that dude really loves investing. It's his joy. He's not waking up every morning doing that for money.
Right.
Sean Combs in a studio, like making music, like that's love. Like, and so I'm just saying, like, whatever that is for you, like, don't be afraid to chase that thing because nothing else is going to be any more fulfilling. For me, it's trying to figure out how to build. Like, I like this is what I like to do. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
I genuinely enjoy this, right? So, like, and when I'm not doing this, I'm with my family. You know what I mean? Like, So for me, like, for a perfect example, and I don't want to go on too long, but just the whole idea of when I finished business school, do I go do the typical thing that people do, right? Going to banking or private equity? Nothing wrong with the people who've done that and done very well. I'm happy for them. But for me, it was like, oh, wait, I get to go build some businesses in the Caribbean amongst my people.
Right.
Like, I'm like, even if this doesn't work, what's the worst outcome? I got to find another job, but I would have had this, you know what I'm saying? So like that kind of thing. And so like, for me, like that's where it all starts. Like if you spend the time trying to really understand what makes you happy and then focus as much of your time as you can doing that, you're more likely to end up happy.
Yo, man. Like, appreciate you, man. Yo, listen, you dropped so
Always,
many
bro.
jewels.
Always.
I can't wait for the
Always,
book,
man.
brother. I can't wait for the book. I can't wait for the
Man, I
book.
still
I'll
got
be
plenty of work
disappointed.
to do before we talk about a book.
Man, you could do different. You could do a series, man. I feel like you got so many jewels just by telling your story.
Man.
You know what I'm saying? There's so many jewels that I feel like the culture and people in general need to kind of lay, because like you said, people chasing the money, people chasing the fame, people chasing things that don't really matter. But you really stay true to who you were or who you are, and you go that route. You trust your journey. You trust yourself, man.
Absolutely, bro. Absolutely. This is great, man. I enjoyed it though, family.
Yo, fam, appreciate you, man. Listen, I've known you so long. I've never learned so much about you until this conversation, bro. So I appreciate you spending the time to really, sharing your stories and your journeys and your challenges and all that, man. And keep doing your thing, brother, man. You're definitely doing it for the culture. People paying attention. Howard is always proud. You know what I'm saying?
Absolutely, man. HU family forever, man. You know what that is.
Yeah, you know what it is.
All right, my brother.
All right, man. Have a good one, man. Thanks a lot, man.
You too.
Absolutely. All right, peace.
Peace.
What up? Thank you for listening to another episode of Reverse Ambition. I hope you enjoyed the conversation and got some inspiring nuggets. Before you go, though, please remember to subscribe so you'll be alerted when the next episode is dropped. You don't want to miss out. And remember, it's never too late to leave to follow your dream or your passion. You can always leap back. Live your life with no regrets. Until next time, my name is Kelsey Cooper, aka The Social Broker. Peace.